So you've got a project car that's not worth anything anymore. What do you do with it? This is my son's Crown Vic. It's been a good running car for a while, but something's knocking in the motor, the transmission's not shifting, the steering column's wobbly, the body's beat up, and it's not worth putting any more time and effort into it. You've seen the pickup that I got him a while back. I did a little video on patching up the floor pan on it. He's been driving that. This thing's pretty much dead. It's been sitting in my yard. I need to get rid of it. So how do you get rid of vehicles? Well, I'm going to part this one out. I'm going to pull the engine and transmission out. I'm going to pull the suspension out, front and rear. The rear has parts that I can use for rebuilding my Mustang suspension if I need to. And I'm just going to take it across the scales. And the frame is still good, the suspension's still good, but I'm going to rob the front cradle out of it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. It'd be nice to see if it fits in the Sunbeam. I think it's a little too wide though. But it's, I'm just going to part out what I can, use what I can, and then I'm going to take the rest to a scrap metal yard. I could take the whole thing to a junk yard, but I'm keeping mostly good parts. That is an option. If you're not going to be dismantling the car at all, take it to a junk yard. If you're going to be dismantling it, keeping the major components, a junkyard's not going to want it, you've got to take it to a scrap metal yard. Either place I take it, they'll want a title. At the same time, I also have this. This is the chassis to our old Tarp racing car. This is ragged out. This body's ragged out. There's not much more we can do with it. There's been transmission tunnel repair. There's some welded in sections inside here where we had to fix the transmission tunnel after somebody went off-roading. We couldn't bolt the transmission cross member back in without putting those welded sections in. And when that happened, we knew this chassis was on its last days. There's a lot of other damage on this chassis. The roll cage doesn't quite fit like how we like it. And we got another chassis for free. So we took everything off this last weekend. Now I've got to take this across the scales. I do have the title for this, in theory. I've lost the paperwork once again. Having teenagers and having to deal with all their cars and having them going in and out of your title box means that you're probably going to lose some paperwork. So I had to load this on the trailer the other day. Well, I didn't unload it from the trailer. It stayed on the trailer. I hooked the trailer up to Way Cool Jr. and drove up to the tag agency, and they had to do a VIN verification on it to make sure that the VIN number here matched what was in their records. And I should get a title in about the next week in the mail, and then I can go scrap this. Which brings me back to the Crown Vic. I do have the title for the Crown Vic. It's in my son's name. He hadn't notarized the title. He needs to sign it and notarize it. So next time he's out this way, I'll take him to the tag agency. We'll get that done. And then I can take this and scrap it. And I'm looking forward to getting rid of this thing. I love Crown Vics though, I really do. It's kind of interesting. I had a couple of old Cadillacs. I had a 69, I had a 76, and that model range there from 69 to 76 is like the prime Cadillacs. They had the biggest engines available. You had the 472 or the 500. There was body on frame. They were rugged. They were reliable. They were easy to work on. Just fantastic cars. And those were all, you can't find one of those now. They're pretty much all gone. And if you find one in good shape, people want a decent amount of money for it, even if it's not a top-end model. That said, if you're looking for a bargain cruising car, you can find them. They're just, usually there's some hidden rust on them, just know that. The Crown Vic, actually I'd say in the 80s it was the Caprices. The Caprices took that mantle, and then in the 90s and early 2000s the Crown Vics were the comfortable cruiser cars. And now that all those are gone, I think that the Chrysler 300 is probably the closest thing you're going to find to a comfortable cruiser anymore. And they're still in production. And the fantastic that they've been, that same basic body style has been in production for 20 years now. So yeah, I think that's what you're looking at if you want a comfortable cruiser. So anyways, now that I'm scrapping this, how am I going about it? Well, the first thing I did was I removed the battery. That's just number one thing. Once you take the battery out, the thing's not going to accidentally start if you arc wires or anything like that. It's not going to do anything silly. So safe it by taking out the battery first. Then move on to draining fluids. Drain all the fluids out of it that you can. And once you have the fluids out, you can just start dismantling what you need bit by bit. I'll take apart this front end here, get the radiator out so I can get access to the engine. I've had this engine out before. My son and I, a couple of years ago, it was having engine problems. We pulled it apart. Come to find out, it was the rear main seal had stuck to the crank and the air conditioner compressor had locked up. And we fixed those couple of issues. This engine is brand new. The police department had put in a new engine right before they scrapped it. or sold it at auction. So it's got a healthy motor. I've just got to figure out what's knocking or ticking. It's not a steady knock, so I know it's not a rod knocking, but there's a tap in the engine that comes and goes. So I'm going to figure out what's going on there. Maybe. I don't know how motivated I am to work on this engine. I don't have anything that'll use it. The Mustang has the later 3-valve heads on it, but yeah, I do need the rear axle, and I would like to grab the front suspension out of it, and then I'll wheel this thing onto the trailer and take it to scrap. So that's the order of getting things done. I'm gonna see if I shoot any more video to go along with this, but yeah. Thanks for watching. And another quick tip, save all your hardware. I've got bins and bins of hardware over there, and most all of it came from me pulling apart components on cars. Save your hardware.